My name is Rhys Hannan. I've been a chef in Tasmania for about 20 years and I'm currently the manager at Harvest Market, Launceston. It's the opening bell. It's the tradition of the market. They've been doing it for 12 years. And I tell you what, if you are not doing it right on time, people are really unhappy about it. Saturday morning, and this is our normal procedure. Sun's out, the market's filling up with seasonal produce. We've got to do some shopping for a bit later. It's brilliant.
The snapper's looking awesome in the front here, eh?
Yeah. Everybody that I talk to at the market is like emotionally invested in what they're doing and why they're doing it. They're passionate about the sustainability of it, the taste, the flavour, the everything. So that to me is really what sets Tasmanian produce apart. For the other staples that we're going to need for this lunch, we're just going to duck down the road to Alps and Amici. It's all curated by a chef, so you know that it's got the right stuff for us. I've had this kind of dish in my head to do for a really long time, right? I mean, anyone can make a seafood risotto and like, that's great, no problem with that. But I had this mission to like catch the fish, dig the pippies, make the base, and just do this like beachside, beautiful restaurant quality dish. In order to replicate this for our Sunday lunch tomorrow, the consolation prize is that we're still making the risotto. It's still gonna be fabulous, but we've had to go and buy the ingredients. But that's okay, you know, we're supporting the local businesses and it's not gonna be any less delicious. So the fish we're using today is ocean perch that we picked up from Chris at Georgetown Seafoods at Harvest Market this morning. Screaming fresh, you can tell by looking at it. His lovely eyes, beautiful crystal clear. If you know anything about seafood, you know that is a super fresh fish. I'm like pretty laissez-faire when it comes to making like chicken stock, but with fish stock, for some reason, the more that you skim, the better. You just really want to stand here, take your time, get as much of it off as you can, particularly this kind of discoloured stuff. And then we just have to sit back and kind of let it simmer for about 25 or 30 minutes. Don't cook it too long. It's treating seafood as you'd treat kind of any other seafood. It doesn't need heaps of cooking. You really don't need to go overboard on your vegetables either. We've just got some diced celery, some diced onion, some chopped red chili, some garlic, and a couple of pieces of lemon zest. We're gonna add those in stages as we're sauteing off, and then we'll get the rice in, we'll get the wine in, maybe like one addition of stock, and then we'll stop the base there and get it cold and refrigerated. The other thing that we've done here is really tried to cut our vegetables so that they'll be about the same size as our finished grains of rice, and that way they're gonna sort of blend into the background. We've got our rice and we've coated that in the fat, and we're like right up to this point where we need to add the wines. We're going to in with our lemon zest and in with our wine. We've come this far. We've got some great and really special ingredients cooking for really special people, so let's not add just cheap nasty box wine to it. We're going to go with something nice and drinkable. The more organized you can be, the better. Every restaurant you go to, if you order risotto there, they're not making that from scratch, right? From raw rice. Like we stop the risotto after the first addition of stock. But the key is getting it out of that pan and as cold as you can, as fast as you can. So my best tip would be to just lay out a bunch of cling wrap on your bench, out onto that cling wrap and spread right out. Just let it cool down to room temperature for about 10 minutes and then you can kind of ball it all up and put it in the fridge. The inspiration for making this little dessert is simply stuff that's there in the cupboard, right? So if you've got egg whites, you can make meringue, right? And we've got some brilliant strawberries and rhubarb in the garden. So creme chantilly is flavored whipped cream. You know, there's cream in the fridge, whip it up, you're sort of done. We're using a spoon instead of a spatula because a spoon has got a beautiful sharp edge. We'll cut through the meringue rather than just like push it all around. You just, you know, maybe only the really expert eye might notice, but it could be the difference between beautiful, fluffy, silky, crunchy meringue and just meringue. These meringues will store for 3 or 4 days in an airtight container. So, you know, meringue snackers. That syrup, when it comes off there, if we just strain it off and reserve it, you've got rhubarb bellini. You could reduce it into a little like caramel. You could use it as a little drizzle. You could fold it through another like flavored creme chantilly if you were keen. Like you never ever ditch those fruit syrups. They are like gold. I think there's probably about 400 mils in there. Just gonna do a tablespoon of sugar and use the delightful 1970s cream whisk. I love this thing. We're gonna take it a little bit stiffer than you might otherwise for like soft whipped cream. That's because we're probably gonna lose a bit of texture from it when we do fold through it. So literally while we've been whipping that cream, this rhubarb has come to pretty well exactly where we want it. So you can still see chunks of it in there, but a lot of it started to break down. Lid back on, set aside for 10 minutes, and that's our stewed rhubarb and strawberries like done. We'll fold some raspberry jam through this chantilly. We're just gonna go super gentle. If you are too violent with it at this stage, you really risk it splitting and turning to butter. Cool, we gotta get this into a container and get it refrigerated quick smart. Perfect for us to be able to use our hot spoon, shape it into a nice shape to present well tomorrow. Happy days. Pretty much that for the day. What have we done? We've finished our dessert entirely. We've prepped the stock and we've prepped the risotto base. So we just have to do some skewers and some faffing around tomorrow, which will be really fun. So for now, it is pretty much knockoff time. Yeah, look, I'll always reach for a tin of Duquesne when I'm doing this kind of stuff. These guys definitely know what they're doing. They've got a great range and we love that brand and we love what they've done in Launceston. So it's a pretty natural choice. We're not too far from our guests arriving, so we need to get this risotto base finished. But while that risotto is finishing, we're gonna finish off a few little bits and pieces of garnish. We're gonna get our fish ready to go in the oven. We make sure our clams are nice and ready to go in the pot. And that way, when everybody's arriving, we can jump out there and have a drink with them instead of faffing around in the kitchen. The last little pro tip that we've got about this is when we're doing our first reheat of this stock, we're gonna get a ladle of stock in the pan first. Otherwise, we kind of risk sticking our rice to the bottom of the pan, and we really don't want that. Clams will always release a lot of water when you cook them. So in the recipe, we've got a little bit of white wine. We've got just a touch of water to help lubricate everything because we need to generate some steam to help the clams to cook. So a touch of white wine, touch of water, and a lot of butter. That little combination produces this automatic sauce. We're gonna use that as the final addition of stock to the risotto. It's just gonna punch those flavors right up, and it's gonna mean that we don't need to add a bunch of extra fat to finish the risotto either. It's sort of all encompassed there and flavored in the clam pot.
Look at that clam liquor. It is just like pure wine, butter, and umami clam juice. So as we tap the bottom like that, we just give ourselves a nice flat surface to work with. A nice flat surface to present. Now last step is to get our little shredded seasoned whitefish. Great trick is to float some stock in that space in here. So as the risotto cools on the table and people are eating it, you can drag that stock in and keep the risotto the same texture as the rice cools. Give it a little lean. Et voila.
For this lunch, I've invited my mate LT, or Lauren. She is a kombucha producer. Her partner is a mushroom grower, just involved in Ferment Tasmania. I've also invited Daniel Alps, who's a hugely influential Tasmanian restaurateur. His Providore Alps and Amici is like literally down the road from here, and he had a big influence on me wanting to go into the restaurant industry to begin with. And I've also invited a lovely lady by the name of Claire Campbell, who works for the City of Launceston, and she developed a lot of this place branding that's around. She's been a champion of Tasmanian food and beverage for a really long time. It's time to crack open the case and see what we have got from the Pipers Brook Vineyard Crew Club. Definitely, this is what we're going to start with. It is crisp and refreshing and aromatic, and it will just match perfectly with our food on the hibachi. It's an extra special welcome drink. I mean, who can go past vintage rosé, right? Just gonna get these on and cooking. While that's happening, I'm gonna get our little wok abalone going. Can't leave them standing around hungry, right?
We're able to ask you what you're grilling here.
Yeah, so lion's mane mushroom and eggplant with like a miso marinade and togarashi.
Oh, the 7 spice.
Yep. Yeah, that number. And these are like local venison skewers, so Leonard Game gourmet venison skewers. And they got kushiyaki marinade, so what would normally be a beef marinade for skewers, but you know, we're adapting it to use it for venison because I think it works perfectly. Like, I think it's just beautiful in there. So. There's no reason that 5 people can't sit around a hibachi grill and just eat like all day long. There's no plating, there's no serving, there's no faffing around. It's like prep the ingredients, make the skewers, light the fire, have fun.
Tell me how you prepared the lion's mane, because we recommend usually dry frying them. Did you do a dry fry? Did you do anything to get the moisture out?
Absolutely not. In fact, what I did, I made the marinade and then I chucked all that chopped lion's mane and eggplant in there and it just all went, soaked it all up, right? So they're not seared off and well, they've got good color on them, which is great, but they still remain like super moist and tender because all they've done is soak up that miso marinade overnight.
Yum.
Finally, yes. Consolation prize risotto. Thank you for your patience. I had this dish in my head for like a long time. My partner and I went on like a big road trip into North Queensland, and I had a few food goals that I wanted to tick off while we were on that trip, right? One of them was making a seafood risotto like on the beach in a wild campsite in Queensland. So like, right, I'm gonna catch this fish, this will be how, I'm gonna go dig these pippies, like I know how to do it and where they are. I didn't catch any fish, I couldn't find any clams, and we blew up the car and like we had to like cancel that whole sort of section of the trip. The consolation prize is that I still get to cook this risotto and I still get to share it with great people, but like I had to buy the ingredients, I'm afraid. But like, that's okay.
And we're not on a Queensland beach.
Yeah, we're not on a Queensland beach and no one has a rum-filled coconut. But like
I can find one.
but other than that, the Rizzo is still exactly the same, and it's really how I envisaged it. And you know.
I'm glad we're enjoying it with white wine instead.
Yeah, that's actually speaking of.
Yeah, what do we have?
So we've got a couple of white wine options from Pipers Brook Vineyard. These were another obvious choice because of the connection that I have to that sort of part of the world and this particular label. So Chardonnay, the Riesling is going to go best with the dish. So no more standing on ceremony. Please, go pass it around.
I'll open wines.
I'll open wines. I'm going to serve myself. Thank you guys so much.
I'm personally starting with Chardonnay. My first instinct is always Chardonnay because I just love that varietal, particularly with the seafood and like the clams, and it's going to be kind of buttery and fatty. My dad was a wine collector for a really long time. They moved to Tasmania long before I was born, and they moved into the Pipers River region. I've just got these memories of there always being Pipers Brook Vineyard wines on the table. It's just something that's really special to me, and they're bloody delicious, you know, more than anything.
Oh, right, of course. Cheers. Thank you, Chef.
My pleasure.
Thank you to this bounty, all the farmers.
What a treat being here, and thank you.
Oh man,
thank you, Chef.
What a pleasure.
The perfect vehicle to put anything that's in season together. Like,
Right.
you've got the asparagus, the lettuce, and you know, Rhys has got his clams and his fish. So What a great vehicle to add all the flavours of the region together.
Yeah. And I mean, what, our asparagus season's really short, right?
Ridiculously
Like
short.
eight or
about
12
over
weeks?
now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like,
done.
This is the last of
Yeah.
it.
4 weeks max.
yeah.
The more that you share, the better the result for the whole community.
Right.
So did we ask, where did you get your clams from, Rhys?
Mate,
Georgetown?
no.
that was the-
Zacky Wacky at Clay.
Oh yeah, beautiful. You've got the fish, the asparagus, and the wine, all within a 45-kilometre radius of each other.
Oh yes, I didn't even mean to do that.
And
That's
it's all
the beauty
been-
of cooking, right? With these ingredients and Tassie, you're like, oh yeah, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, harvest market, and then you're like, oh wait, let's actually do the food miles.
There's not much in Tassie that does have huge food miles on it unless it's imported.
Yeah.
You know?
It's just no surprise. It just comes back to what we all know. For a long, long time, Lonnie's always just been known as the place for the monkeys in the gorge. We know that there's so much more to this place than that. We love our nature, we love our food and our wine, and
Our proximity to those.
yeah,
It connects us, and it connects us to place, and it connects us to each other, and it connects us to health, and it connects us to sustainability. I mean, give me a reason why you wouldn't want to eat the food from where you are. If the apocalypse happens and hell, you know, hellfire rains down, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
We got all this done yesterday and I'm super stoked, so we're just gonna give it a really simple plate up. Make sure we get a couple of strawberries and plenty of rhubarb in each one. Crusty on the outside, chewy in the center meringue bits. Oh my goodness, they've come up a treat. Love this. Some raspberries from the garden just to finish it off. Easiest thing ever. Dessert was always part of dinner.
Yes, it was.
Mate. You could either call it fancy pav or you could call it just not pavlova at all. But you know, it's the simplest little dessert in the world, and we just did it all yesterday. But we've got stewed rhubarb and strawberries, both from the garden, raspberries to garnish it from the garden, creme chantilly with the raspberry jam, also from the garden, whipped through there, and some meringue with some eggs from the market. Like,
Perfect. It's all about the different textures.
yeah, exactly.
Yes,
There's
what
what a great
contrast.
thing for the Chrissy table too.
And like the raspberry canes down there, they were originally in the first house that I grew up in.
Oh, yeah.
And Dad cultivated them for like, 25 years, and Mum would not let them go when she moved out.
So lovely.
So she took like half a dozen of them, and then they've been
Now
in
they're
that
here.
garden down there for 2.5 years now, and now
Oh,
they're
yeah.
fruiting again and perfect. So they're the same ones. Like
Raspberry.
these are my
These are your childhood
raspberries.
raspberries.
Yeah.
That's incredibly
Isn't
special.
it? Let's finish it all off with a little bit of Tasmanian Pinot Noir. Cheers. Thank you so much for coming to this Tasmanian table.
It was awesome.
Been an
Thank you very much,
absolute-
Rhys.
Thank you for
Well,
having
having
us.
us.
Thank you.
Oh
so
my
good
goodness.
to see you guys.
How lucky are we?